We're still here, guys. I'm working on my wireless microphone. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right, now we got that technical difficulty out of the way. Hope you guys are doing well. We are back in the shop working on the Ford Transit. And today we're probably doing something that a lot of you guys that have a Ford Transit are not looking forward to, and that is dealing with the customer connection points underneath the driver's seat. Now I say this because I have dropping stuff off my desk. All right, so I have had a Ford Transit 2019, worked on a 2020 Ford Transit. This is a 2021 Ford Transit. And all of the Ford Transits, the customer connection point, which is the connection that is over here and helps and is provided by Ford to put additional accessories into your van. This port is different on every single van. So what's challenging about that is there's a different connection for each model year if you want to tap into that system. The panel on the side of the driver's seat, the cap is different, so depending on what options you got on the van are going to give you a customer connection point 1 or a customer connection point 2. So in in 1 minute, I'm going to try to go through this because it's pretty complicated. So if you go online and you look up customer connection point, what we're looking at is this right here. So this is the base of the Ford Transit seat. And over on if you're sitting in the seat, this is going to be on the back left-hand side, but if you're looking at the seat as we are in this orientation, it's right over there on your right-hand side, right where the seat belt is. And this is a connection where you can tap into a high current power source for using the high amp alternator to power devices in the van. So for example, if you were you were a handyman business or a plumber or something like that, and you had some type of device in the back of the van, maybe like a lift, hydraulic lift, or maybe a wheelchair lift, or some type of high current use. This is a connection that you can tap into and get that power from the van. So like I said, these connections are different on every single van. So in this photo is showing that it has 3 connections. Typically, if you don't have, this is technically a customer connection point 2, as of my understanding. Now, I'm always learning about this stuff, so I'm giving you as much information as I can at the time. However, if I stumble on something, it's only because I'm trying to figure out as much as everyone else is. So this, on the right-hand side, these purple things, those are going to be your fuses. So they're like a mega fuse. So if you've seen me mention mega fuses in the past, it's just a chunky fuse, typically 60 amp, 100 amp, 150 amp fuse source that's going to protect whatever circuit that you're building off of on that. Now this one, in some vans there might be 1 populated, there might be 3 populated, or this whole box right here may not exist. So in our example today, inside the van, that box doesn't exist. So I'll point to that in just a second. We're going to be working under the seat today. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be managing the wires for our Ecoflow. So we're going to try to do one Ecoflow cable that's the dedicated DC to DC charging cable that is 60 amps. They have 3 ports on the system itself. Let me go grab it. Okay, so right here we have the Ecoflow. This is not light. I'm trying to film this at the same time. The first one is your alternator N1. So this will provide 60 amps of DC to DC charging. It's also a PV input 1, so that's for solar charging. Then we got PV input 2, alternator N2, PV input 3, alternator input 3. So this is my understanding from as much as I've researched, read through the whole entire manual. This first one, alternator 1, is the primary. So this is going to give you your 60 amp input for the DC to DC charging. If you don't have that, technically this will go to a PV1. PV is just solar, stands for photovoltaic. And that is if you just have a big array of solar panels. But this one is going to be the DC to DC 60 amp. This second one that says PV input 2 is also a alternator input as well. And to my understanding, these two, they're either solar or they're an additional alternator input. They don't provide 60 amps, they do 30 amps each. So what I'm gonna do is hook up the 60 amp just as normal, and then hook up an additional 30. And so my goal is that by doing that, I can get 90 amps of DC to DC charging. So the next question would be, what is the Ford Transit capable of? What is the standard alternator output? Let's see here. Let me get my notes. So the standard alternator on a Ford Transit is typically a 250 amp output alternator. That comes on the 3.5 liter V6 gas, and then the 3.5 liter EcoBoost, which is the turbocharged V6. You can get dual alternators on this on the van. This one that we're working on just has the single, but still, it's a 250 amp alternator. So the customer connection point is a kind of a way of allowing something else to take up that big, to use up that. So my current understanding, the van only needs around 100 to, so don't quote me on this, it's just stuff I've read on an article. It's like 100 to 130, and then anything else is extra. So you can kind of see that as we got 120 amps of usable amperage, current to charge things that is not going to hurt anything. All right, so that's what we got to work with. And what we're going to show you today is that this, inside the van, how it's distributed, to my understanding, how we're going to connect the Ecoflow power to this safely. So we're going to be using two things. We're going to be using one of the customer connection points that has a dedicated 60 amp fuse on this one, and then we're going to be using a terminal fuse, a 75 amp terminal fuse for the rest. Now the two Ecoflow power cables that we're going to be using, they're both 6 gauge wires, so 60, 65 amps max on those. And yeah, so we're going to have those fused as a circuit. The other thing is we're going to show you how I'm planning to connect all this. Now the reason that I'm going and diving in and doing all this is because not only that, the battery that was in this van was not really holding a charge too well. So just to make sure that I didn't have any headaches going forward, for John and Susan, I wanted to make sure that we replaced that battery. So I replaced that battery with a new one. It's about 250 bucks, and actually I think it was like 275. And it's just a die-hard, let's see here. You'll see the battery here in a second. But it's a 70 amp hour die-hard battery, and I'll show you to you in just a second. Other info before we actually get to work here. The alternator technically will produce a minimum of 170 amps at low idle speeds and maximum output above 1800 engine RPM. So that's a good thing to know if you're considering idling the van and hoping that it's going to charge something in the van. Now that's just stuff that I pulled off the internet. That's not anything I've read in a manual. The information I've been trying to get for this whole entire live stream, it's hard when you're looking through these, I think it's the BEM, because there's just a lot of different options on a lot of different Ford Transits. So depending on what you have is going to change that information. Okay, so what I wanted just to show you here is the 3 outputs are 360 amp outputs. And when we get into the van, you're going to see how that's going to be a place where we're actually going to connect one of our Ecoflow connections. It'll be our main connection. The connection that's going to take 60 amps, the most amps, is going to be on a terminal fuse. And then the one that's maxed at 60 amps is going to be on the 30 amp side of the Ecoflow, because Ford has spec'd that to be a 60 amp circuit. I'm not going to oversize the fuse on that for obvious reasons. But 60 is going to be fine because we're only going to be technically pulling 30 amps max from that. All right, so that's that info. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to show you. Yeah, this just underneath the seat has just been a challenge for me. Not a technical challenge, it's more just figuring out what van I have and then what is possible with that setup. So let's go ahead and hop in the van. Let's get to work and start talking about this in real life. Let's actually come over here. So like I said, I bought a new battery for the customer I'm working on. They purchased this van from me. So going forward, just as a builder, I want to make sure that there's no unforeseen charging issues, because I know better, as much electrical knowledge that I have, that if I have a dead battery and I push it off onto something and say, hey, it'll be fine, it's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is, if you know there's an issue, take that out of the equation, so that when you're troubleshooting maybe the Ecoflow or a charging circuit like the solar, it's not something that is a variable. You've fixed it. It's expensive, but it's the right thing to do that. Plus, I did not know that the battery in this van was a lead acid, and I upgraded to a AGM. So the AGM is absorbed glass material, matte, something like that. Anyway, it's got this these chambers in it, and it doesn't have that sloshing liquid that's kind of moving around like in a traditional lead acid battery. And it's now the batteries on a Ford Transit are vented, so you need to make sure that you pay attention to this box, because this box is going to have this vent line. And be very careful. You need to take the battery you took out of underneath the seat if you're putting a new battery in, and you need to pull the plastic cap off the positive terminal, the little white cap. That plugs up one side, and then this side is going to be your vent for the coming out the negative side of the battery. And you're going to see all that here today. We're going to go through this whole entire thing. My goal is, by the end of this video, I have moved on past this, but I've also taught you guys what the heck all this means along the way. So underneath this seat in all Ford Transits is where the fuses are. Now you have, and by the way guys, if you want to stop me and ask any question, just put those in the chat. I'm happy to answer that. So underneath here we have all of our fuses, and these are the main fuses for the Transit. From here, other devices work. For example, this blue and white cable, this is the 125 amp supply. Well, it's not 100 amp, it's probably 100 amp supply fused at 125. But this right here goes up underneath the dash, which I'm actually tapping into at the moment to do my wire taps for my Wolfbox rear view dash cam mirror combo thing. This part's been really challenging because trying to find out an ignition source, a standard 12 volt power always on, the back door with the way that that wiring was set up, it takes a lot of time. So I think if I do this video, you guys can get a little, some cheat codes from me. Just doing stuff a little bit different way than I did it. So first up, like I said, this we'll be referencing in a second. This power supply takes care of your power windows, your switch, the relay for that, power windows, the sync 3. Actually, this whole, as you guys can see, this is all the fuses and all the connections that I am currently working on in here. And what I had to do was find online where all these circuits were, and then I had to go through, label each one what it was, and then cross my fingers that when I put this battery in, connect the Ecoflow, connect this, close all this all up, that these connections are actually what they say they are, and they're providing the appropriate signal and voltage in order to control the dash cam system. So this is just the dash cam system, but this whole is all operated by this. So what we'll be talking about in the next few moments are this circuit down here, which is our 60 amp customer connection point supply. So this goes down a bus bar built in here all the way and connects to this outside. So this is that outside cap that you guys see. So this cap right here is mounted to the outside, and it is what covers up that connection because it is a live connection. There is a fuse in here. This is live over here, so this is actually, protecting this from getting any type of, connection, moisture or something. You might drop something. Now within this, it's going to be different in every single van. So depending on what upgrade you have, this van, for example, doesn't have this upgrade over here, which is not a big deal. You still have the supply, you just don't have the relay and all the plastic pieces in here that make it a little bit more convenient as a connection. So we're not worried about that because we don't need it anyway. But if you take this plastic off, you'll notice that there's an inner plastic and an outer piece. This outer piece is what will go over your cables once you're done. It's more like a trim piece that covers up where these wires go. So for example, if you had some wires, you can see they go in these slots like that, and then they can connect to that connection and do what it needs to do. So you have this. Now this one has 2 openings, some have 3, some have are completely different than this and are a completely different circuit. So this is more just for reference to help you understand this and get started. It's not a one-to-one example unless you have this exact make, model, and option package. So what we're looking at here is the essentially glorified bus bar from Ford. That is where all the incoming connections are. So you have your power input, and then you have, for example, like your battery connection. So this top one is your battery connection. So this is what is actually going to the battery, charging the battery, and coming to provide current to, crank the engine over. So right here is essentially your positive bus bar. Now, I'm assuming these are for the alternator and starting system as well as charging. I did not go that far to figure out this, but that's pretty much what it is. That's not what I was looking for. But this right here is what you use if there was that secondary customer connection point connection here, to my understanding. So we're going to actually use this. So all this is a stud and this nuts on here. And then what we're going to do is the higher current. So let me get the right one on here. So this is a terminal fuse, if you've ever seen this. So technically this goes on a terminal stud, and just like it indicates, it's a fuse on a terminal. What's nice about this is this works in scenarios where you need to get power from a stud or a bus bar, and you may need it to be like a high current source or something like that. So what I did here is I'm trying to fit this into this box. I should be able to do it. There should be enough room. But what I had to do is I had to cut about 1/4 inch of the threads off. And if you ever cut threads off, always put a nut on first, and then use that to kind of be your cap to kind of clean the threads up as you take it off. But if we take this apart, we got a terminal stud. It comes in 2 pieces. If you go on Amazon and buy it, they'll give you this, but they won't necessarily sell you the fuse. Typically, these are sold as 2 separate pieces. Depending on what fuse or wire gauge you have, you will calculate the appropriate fuse for the terminal fuse. Now, these terminal fuses are typically rated up to 300 amps max. Now we're only using 75 amps here, and I believe we were able to pull I think 175 amps from this. Need to find out how much we can actually do. Let's see here. Yeah, if we get into the weeds here and you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, definitely ask me a question in the chat. Yeah, so right here, I'm looking at, this is the module that you would buy from Ford, or they probably have one used on eBay. But this is the module with the relay built into it. But the fuse, as you can see here, is this 175 amp fuse. So for this right here, they have designed that to be, so that's kind of cool. But you can see that is what would look like if that piece was in here. But we don't have that because we don't need it. But just referencing the picture, we got 175 amps. We're pulling 75 amps, so not even a problem. What else was I going to show you? Okay. The second part of this video, we're going to go behind me and look underneath the dash. It is completely taken apart. So before I put it back together, I'm going to show you that. Okay, so our next step is we need to mount this terminal fuse. So right here, the stud size, this is going to work pretty well for us. I would like to get, I do have some copper washers, so I do want to get a copper washer. If I can go find it. I'll be right back there in just a second. Actually, I'm not going to use a copper washer. I'm going to use a different type of washer. All right. So we're just going to put this in here. Now, I haven't done this yet, so I haven't actually gone through this whole process and made it look fancy for filming. So if I have to change a couple things, then I have to go backwards on what I said, but that's fine. That's just the whole process. So our first challenge is, after we put this down, is how are we going to get the Ecoflow wires in here without having to adjust them in any way. Because I don't want to cut the cable, but the cable is very long. Okay, so that's on there. What's nice is it's got this really big rubber cap to put on there. So we're going to put the rubber cap on. We're just testing this out because we just want to see if this actually is going to work. Well, it is going to work because, oh, perfect, look at that. Okay. So we're doing good on that. The only issue that I have is I'm okay with the positive wire coming in on both of them. The negative wire is the issue because that's going to end up it's going to involve possibly cutting the wire to actually get it from here to this. There's a terminal on the seat, but it's painted and all that stuff, and I don't know if I want to trust that as my grounding source. I don't know. So we're going to figure that out in just a second. All right, let me get the stream back on my phone here. There you guys go. Okay. So the nice thing is we can start by using this as kind of our template on how we may start to wire all this together. Now the top two screws on mine, those are the ones that this piece of plastic catches and kind of holds this protection part on there. Now the first thing is I have this is alternator number 2. So this is the cable that I'm going to be using for my secondary connection. So this bottom down here, this 60 amp bus bar that comes all the way under, this is a long piece of metal in here that comes out. So that is going to be my secondary connection. Now I still have to test all this because we just need to make sure that it works, for lack of a better word. Now the bolts that hold this together, they are 10 millimeters. to get it off. All right, so I need to get my calipers out because I don't know the thread pitch or the size of the thread. Because what covers the plastic, they don't give you a bolt for the kit. Now you can buy a customer connection point kit that will give you a set of 3 fuses and the nuts for what I'm actually trying to figure out right now. But this van doesn't have the part that I told you earlier that accepts the fuses and the bolts, so it doesn't have any of that. So that's just a little bit extra work here. Let me see if I can make sure you guys are on the camera here. All right, so we got a thread pitch gauge, and we're just going to go through really quick. I'm assuming it's metric. I guess it's a 1.0. Yep. Okay, it's a 1.0. Now, let's see if we can figure out what size it is. I think 6 by 6 by 1.0. I don't think I have a socket of that. Anyway, those 2 bolts actually hold this whole thing from kind of vibrating. We will fix that later. Right now, we just need to get these electrical connections connected. So we actually need to put this plastic on first. And then put our wire that we want to put in here in here. And always check your wires. So when I was messing with this wire, there's a little nick right there on it. But the problem is it's got some exposure. So we just want to put a new piece of heat shrink on there so that we don't have any issues in the future. So I'm using a wireless heat shrink gun, which is not the fastest as a plugged-in version, which I like to use better than this one, but this will be a little bit faster for you guys watching. Now I get the heat shrink that has the adhesive on the inside, so when it kind of oozes out each end, you know the connection's really good. Now be careful because this is going to be super hot. So. So we got that positive connected. Next, we have our second wire. So this is the challenge. The positive is connected on the outside like it should be. So the next challenge is to get both the secondary wire and the negative wire into this connection. And then always label your wires. You see, it's not neat or fancy, but this is alternator 1. So this one is going to come in, and the negative is going to be connected to our, I'm going to move this actually out of the way. I'm going to keep it on there, but it's just going to move it down here. Okay, so now we've got, and there's no battery in here, so there's no risk of shorting anything or making anything spark. But, so now, we have this one. And I'm trying to figure out how this wire is going to So in a van, you're always kind of fighting what it's going to look like in the end at the beginning. So if you're not already thinking when you're working on anything in your van how it's going to look later, you need to think about that first before you're even doing this. So I can plug this into here, no problem. That's the easy part. The hard part is, where are these going to go later? So if I plug this, but I need to actually flip this around and do it like that, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. You know, how this is going to go in here smoothly. And I think let's see here. So I need both wires. I need the negative and the positive to come in here together. But in a perfect world, I like the positive to be on the bottom and the negative to be on the top. There we go. Okay. So there we go. So now the negative. All right, so we've got our So we've got our positive coming in here, and now we're ready to get our terminal fuse. Okay, so nothing is on here. You got to take all the washers, all the lock washers, everything off, because the way a terminal fuse works is you have this bottom base, which is the initial contact to the stud, and then you have this side over here, and this face is what you're going to put your washer, actually your next connection on. So you want to have this wire on top, then you're going to have a washer, lock washer, and nut. So put this on first. Remember, nothing's on here, just the stud. Okay, and then that way, there, it makes the electrical connection. And then we're gonna take this one, which we're gonna triple check that this is alternator number 1, okay, and it is. And so that is gonna go here. So you see the fuse is in between this. So that's what's protecting the wire. Then next we have our washer, and we have our lock washer, and then we have our bolt. Okay, and then we're just gonna hand tighten this down until we can make sure we've got everything figured out here. Okay. I think okay, that's gonna work. All right. So that looks good. We can get that bolted down on there. Okay, next we need to we need to make an extension for our grounding cables here. All right, so what I'm getting ready to do is make a custom grounding cable for our system. So I'm not gonna bolt it to the seat. I'd like to have something on the chassis at the minimum. So I'm actually going to unmount this really quick. Actually, I'm just going to rip this off. Now I know that looked painful, but this cap is another 1/4 of an inch high, and it's starting to touch this, and this is already protected in here. We're going to be moving these grounding plugs actually out here on this outside, and they're actually going to come and they're going to connect. We're going to go underneath this wheel, this step well. We're going to connect this. There's a really nice connection to the frame, and it's on the very right side of the dash, and I'll try to show that to you guys later. But if I were you, I would not just connect it here. I mean, that's just not... That would not be the way to do it. Okay, I'm gonna move the camera so you can actually get a little bit more view for entertainment instead of me just talking. All right, let me zoom out here. So yesterday I didn't film it. I was knocking out a lot of stuff. I went and got some more cables, traveling, stuff like that to pick up some stuff from West Marine. So some additional power cable. So I didn't film, but I glued in the foam. So that was done off camera. So the whole floor, except for the plywood, it's already glued in. So plywood is the only thing left to glue in. Plywood and to put the lawn seal down. So there's only two things left. So we got a lot of things going on in this video. I'm actually disassembling all the trim on with the seatbelt area on the driver's side because both of these are going to be wrapped in fabric just to kind of neaten, everything up. But that means we got to take the seatbelt off. The seat belt is a T50. Any of you guys are wondering? If you're taking this panel off, this comes out really easy. This one has these two little fins that will catch the sheet metal, and those two little fins make it almost impossible. So you need to come in here and squeeze that to let it come out, or you'll break that. This bottom one down here actually comes straight up. All right, missing one clip somewhere. Well, I have to take this apart. You guys are wondering why vans take a while to get built. This is exactly why. Because all we want to do is hook up the Ecoflow, but put our wires where we want them to be, we have to take apart half the van. So we have to take this apart. Gotta take this apart. Okay, so now we pretty much gotta it's almost as if our electrical connection we made just didn't even happen. So we've got our labels wired, we've got that taken off. We need to move this plastic that we just mounted out of the way so that we can come in here and take off our bottom piece to this puzzle. Okay, so now we can actually get this out. Okay. There we go. Out of the way. This is what makes this one hard. Do you see how these have to snap over? So that's one of the hardest pieces in the Ford Transit, is that thing that I just took out right there. Okay, there we go. Now, take out this. Okay, this is what we were trying to get out. So we got that out. So now we take this, move it to the side. Okay. All right, now that gives us room for the wire we wanted to run. All right, guys, I'm gonna be inside, or actually outside the van on the workbench. I'm gonna be making a cable. We're gonna do a ground cable that goes from the back. We're gonna put it, we're actually gonna have it connected to these two connections. And then these two connections will have a nice piece of heat shrink, and then these two grounds are actually gonna go around here, down, underneath where you step in the van and up. And we're gonna connect them underneath the van over here. It's gonna be a really good connection. So it might be a while since I come back over here, but I will be back in just a minute. But I got my phone with me, so if you guys have any questions, just put it in the chat. Or, let's see if I can do this. Maybe I can get you guys zoomed in over there. I don't know how much this is going to zoom in. Oh yeah, that'll be just right. So just a minute. This is the battery that we're going to be installing. Some light over here. First thing we're going to do is measure. Let's see, we need to measure this. Just using my hydraulic crimper to crimp this 6-gauge, which is going to be our 6-gauge ground wire. She's not doing a good job of crimping that at all. Yeah, depending on which lugs ends I use, I sometimes have to go. This is the one that's on the DIY van build cheat sheet, if you guys want to know what that is. It's essentially the last 3 years of all of my Amazon purchases. So it's a just easy way to find stuff that I use in the shop. It's over 250 curated items, and what that means is I've organized them into different components, electrical, solar, stuff like that. But you can find it in the link in the description below. The best part is it's free. So you can just put your name, email address, download it for free. DIY Van Build Cheat Sheet. And if you're checking out vanbuilderhq.com, you can also check it out there. But this crimper that I've used a lot, I definitely recommend it, but depending on where you're sourcing your battery cable lugs from, the thickness of the metal may change what die you actually use. So, for example, the thicker ones I use a 16, which is the gauge that actually is 6 for 6 gauge. That makes no sense, but look this up on the cheat sheet and you'll see it'll come with its own chart to show you the difference between the two. Okay, boom, perfect. All right, so we got that one crimped. Let's get this other in. Then also this Jonard Tools CST 1900 is a very thick wire crimper, wire stripper. So it allows you to go around a very thick wire and then perfectly strip it to get ready for a cable lug. It's also on the DIY Van Build cheat sheet if you guys are interested. All right. Do some heat shrink and we'll be back in business. So the hammering I'm doing is I'm just flattening out these places where the crimp got sharp. Just so it doesn't cut through the heat shrink when I put it on. So the hammering I'm Okay, we're back over here. We're gonna finish up this heat shrink, and then we're gonna get to get a larger piece of heat shrink to go over how we're gonna connect these ground cables. Okay, I'm just grabbing some heat shrink, and then we will be back on camera here in just a second. Heat shrink, wire loom. All right, that should work. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to connect these grounds. So remember, we've got one of these going to our customer connection point with a 60 amp. We got one of these going through to this terminal fuse, 75. And then on the outside here, we're going to run these together. And so we're actually going to bolt these terminals together. It's a 5/8 connection or lug, and then we're going to bolt this all together, and then we're going to heat shrink this into one wire. Okay, if you guys were watching, what I decided to fix is there are some scenarios where you can undersize the ground that I've read, but I don't want to do that here because if we get the full 90 amps of power, I just want that to be a 1-to-1 as far as the grounding wires for the 6 gauge. So yeah, leave a comment below if you've heard of I know it's possible because I've read articles on it, but I think it has to refer to household power. As far as underside, if say a ground line for something is, you're using a number 12 wire, but the ground wire is, let's say, like a number 16 or 18 or something like that. So if you know what I'm talking about, yeah, I'd like to learn more about that. So maybe if you are an electrician, put that in the comments. Okay, so just so you guys understand what we've done here is we've taken a 5/16 bolt. It's pretty much the same one that we use. We have 5/16 lugs on here. We both heat shrink this, and then we're actually going to heat shrink over this to make sure that it is exactly the way we want it to go down and heat shrink. And then we will move on to what we were originally trying to film. But I was hoping there would be some way to do it in here. Of course, we still may do that. I think what I may do is put this on the batteries. Actually, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Question is, how can we fit all these wires in here? Again, this is a really cool solution that we're doing here with the Ecoflow, but we just want to make it look nice. We don't want to have all these wires exposed. So usually making it look good is what takes more time than actually planning and doing the job. All right, let's get this heat shrink on here. Keep on going. All right, where'd that piece go? There we go. Excellent. Oh, that plastic. Come on. All right, I think we are getting somewhere finally on this box. Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely have to wrap these wires back here, but it's really just the best solution. We'll wrap them, we'll put them neatly around this bend back here so everything looks professional, but this is the way we are going to do this one. All right, so that's that. Now let's pull in our positive. So we've already got our 60 amp connected. Now we're moving over to our fused 75 amp. We've got both of our grounds. All right, let's double check that one. Yep, all good. Okay, now we can start moving this stuff out. So we'll clean up the back of the wires later. Now we're getting into the final part of the live stream because I want to get power back to the van so I can test the Wolfbox. This is really the one of the whole reasons is to test the continuous power to the Wolfbox. So what we've got over here is, well, let's get this closed up. Okay, we're torqued down. So this is all safe. This is on this bus bar. This is the fuse. That's what it looks like. So that's right there. So if our main one blows, this is the fuse that we replace. We will have to take this whole apart to replace it. I decided to do this instead of doing the extra wiring to come back over here just because it is extremely highly unlikely that this is ever going to blow. It's the same as these two. So if your alternator went out, you'd still have to do the same thing. So even though this is an inconvenient location, we're not worried about that. But 75 amp terminal, 60 amp down here. We're pulling 60 amps here, we're pulling 30 max here, okay? All right, so that is this. And because we cut off the top of that post, we're actually able to safely get everything in there. So that looks good to go. All right, now we can take our battery box, we can place it back in here, and down here is this is what goes through the floor, seals for the ventilation of the batteries. That's important. So don't just put the box in there, make sure it seats and it's nice and flat like that. The next thing I've done is I've already gone ahead and fully charged the battery. So I trickle charged it to top it off, just super 100%. So it is good to go. Actually, this is backwards. There So that looks good. This is our vent line. So this vent line goes right here. There we go. Yeah, make sure it goes all the way in, but don't break it. And then we have this bunch of cardboard or foam here. And then we have a piece of plastic that's acts as a brace. Like that. And then this goes like that. And believe it or not, that's pretty much it. So this is our positive. This goes to our seat. So this bolts into the bottom of the Ford Transit seat. So I believe it has an airbag sensor in there. And then if you did have an electrical seat or electric seat, this would be circuitry for it. So right here is where we're going to add our negative battery cables. Now I was planning to do something, as you guys saw in this live stream. I will come back and shorten these. I just need these to be in a test mode right now. I need to just verify what I'm doing with the Wolfbox. So, to be all honest, this is actually fine if they just stay just like that. Okay. So let's get our main ground down first, and then we'll come under with our two other grounds. Might even do them side to side like that, so they're not pinching on each other. I'm gonna see if I can get a washer. Smaller. Okay, we're just gonna go with no washer on that one because it's been a little bit of a pain. And you can see we're doing this on each side so it doesn't crimp over and basically cut into the heat shrink, because you can't really put both lugs on each other because there's just not enough room. Technically you could flip one over, but again, there's not enough room on this, what we're doing here. Okay, I've got the leads, the test leads for this. So this is when we go to actually test the Wolfbox part of the install that we're doing. I will change the camera angle here in just a second. It's not the most entertaining stream, but this is a sensitive one. We don't want to rush anything like this. So we don't need to be too careful when we are reconnecting this. However, when we do our inverters, we definitely want to use something called a pre-charge resistor. And then all that does is it's so that whatever that's in the inverter gets turned on in a good way versus a surge of electrical energy, kind of like this. We're just going to quickly put this straight on the terminal. We'll probably have a big spark, but that's pretty much it. Before we do that, we just want to make sure we've got both of our negatives here. We've got our positives lined up right there. I have the rear of this taped, but I'm going to go back and just triple check to make sure, because the ends of the Ecoflow are closed, so there's no way that they can connect. But if you've been moving around stuff in your van and you are doing this Ecoflow setup, the two cables back here, we're going to want to make sure that they are not touching anything that is electrical, because the insides of these cables will be live. Not the outside, but the inside will be. So I've already got some tape on it, but just in case, we're going to do 2 wraps of electrical tape on here. So we're not going to be hooking this up for a minute, but that way I can just take the tape off and test it. So really what we're doing is we're just testing everything before everything gets wrapped up. Because we're also, I also want to be able, I want it to be working right now so I can get the swivel seat on, I can get the regular seat on, all that good stuff. So make sure we got the right thing to lock this down. And the quicker you can do it, the better. And that was actually pretty perfect. So it's going to make all kinds of sounds. Okay. Actually, I'm going to unplug this because I took off, all of this is off. So I need to plug this back in so it'll stop freaking out. As soon as I plug the battery back in, I'll change the camera. You can see the insane part of the van over here. It looks like a mess, but it's not that bad. Okay, we've got everything plugged in. Let's get this battery turned. Let's make sure this van's happy, and then we'll actually we'll get back to work here. Okay, I think it's happy right now. Good. So let's go ahead and bolt this down. New battery, new cables. Both of the Ecoflow are set up. Both are fused. Everything is tight. All right. Now we can move on. This is actually what I started doing today, was just to get this Wolfbox in, and just got a little complicated. Okay, let's flip this around. Let's try if I can get this camera really low. Actually see here. We're going to put this all back together, and then we will be done with this live stream. Okay, I will stop moving around this camera in just a second. Okay, camera set. Let's go a little bit lower. So Jamie asked what Ecoflow system we're hooking up. That's the 5 kilowatt hour. We'll have a whole video on it, but all right, as you guys can see, this is what we're working with here. Now, what's making this so complex is we've got, down underneath here, we've had to take everything off because there is a fuse panel and it's behind all this mess. So all the panels have to come off, and we have just enough room to get our hands in here, get back there, and we have a couple of fuse taps. So if you don't know what a fuse tap is, it is like this. It's a fuse where you can branch off of a fuse and have a new circuit. So the old fuse goes here, maintains the circuit, but then you snag some power off of it here, for example. So now, what I want to know now is I've got my voltmeter, and we're going to put it on, we want DC, and I just want to see what's going on here. So my ACC wire is my accessory. So that's more like a signal wire. This wire that I just pulled out, that is that's what I need to have be a constant 12 volts per the Wolfbox instructions. So I'm just going to put my tester in here, and then I'm going to touch the positive, actually the negative. So let's see if I can put this in here and hold it somewhere. So this is giving me Okay. All right, now I got my DC. There we go. All right, so battery's at 12.7. So let's see if my first one, which the first one, where'd my notebook go? Okay, so my first one that I'm using is the radio. It's number 32 on this 2021 Ford Transit. So fuse 32. $12.7. Okay, so the radio, that is not providing me 12 volts. So now this is kind of the mouse hunt. Now we got to figure out, is there a place where we can get 12 volts with engine off? Oh, okay. All right. So I did a dumb thing. You guys remember I told you that the red and blue wire, this wire right here, this wire is the wire coming from the battery bus bar. So this is what powers all these circuits. So guess what? I did not plug it in. So now I'm going to plug it in so I can get power. So that is the positive. And guess what? If you don't have that plugged in, there's no power. All right, so now we're going to go through, let's test this radio lead again. I knew all those. There's no way that they all didn't have that. Okay. I could have tested that before I pulled it out, but I can go back. Okay, so that's a no-no. How about this one? There we go. Got some noises happening. All right, so nothing on that. Let's go back. Let's go back now. Let's go, since we get some power to this little sub panel here. Let's see what's going on. So nothing. Ah, there we go. So we got 12 volts there. We got 12 volts. We got 12 volts. Okay, we got 12. Why? Ah, okay. So the one that's ACC that I wanted to be ACC, I'm actually going to change that to my B plus, which is my battery. And I can actually test this. All right, I got 12. All right. So that is what Wolfbox wants. They want this circuit to be always on 12. All right, now, so apparently the radio is always on in a Ford Transit, or the supply to it is always on, which is interesting because I chose it to be a circuit that wasn't always on, but all kinds of things you learn. All right, let's test this one. So this one, okay, so that one's off. So now what we need to do is put our tester into this one, which is our it's a 5 amp switched. Okay, so now we're gonna go through and we gotta find one that is off. That's off. Okay, so those are all off. That one's off. No power, no power. Yeah, the next step is to get the key and we got to find out which ones are off. When the key is off and then when the ignition is on, come to life. And then what we'll do is we'll swap out what we started with and we will change it back over to what it needs to be. The only problem is this, there's just not many options. So one, the cable's not long enough. Two, if I just wanted to simply connect it to the battery, I could do that, but I'd have to get a brand new cable and then stretch that up underneath the floor. I solved my constant 12 volt issue, so that was solved. Okay, so all right, so we know that this, okay, we'll just have to test. Let's just get the key. Actually, I'm going to test our new little wires here. Yep, 12.8, nice. I can't test that one, but I'm sure we've got voltage. All right, let's turn this on. My dog is going to go crazy. of, I don't know how you had that sound memorized. There's a 20 amp. Oh, I think I found it. Nope, 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 maybe. Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's see. So that is this one. Okay, so if I turn the car off, it turns off, we're in business here. Okay, that didn't work. Okay. There is a fuse that is the ignition fuse. The problem is that it is a special 3-prong fuse, and that does not come with the Wolfbox kit, so that is why I'm not able to connect into it. So right now that 3-prong. Okay. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to test that with the key. Okay, it goes off. Put the key in and it turns on. Still on. Turn the key. Okay, take the key out. That's still 12. That's still 12. Okay. This one. 0. 0. Okay, this one might be the next. This one might be the ignition one. Let's see here. Yep, that's it. That's it right there. Okay. You guys can't see this, but what I'm looking at. Okay, see how it's 12.46? So watch, when I turn the ignition off, see, it goes to 0. So I've got a constant on, with that's good, because that's our base, and then this is the ACC, so the accessory. So whenever this turns on, it goes to 12. So that's usually the hardest circuit to find in a vehicle. Sometimes it's really easy because you can just find it in a diagram. But yeah, you just witness usually what it takes to figure that out. Because what I did was I've got this whole schematic that I went through, and so I identified everything that's underneath there. And then my two ones to go to were these two. This one worked, but the radio, interestingly, has 12-volt constant. I don't know if that's for like updates or something like that from Ford. So that's interesting. The one up here, this 5 amp ignition switched, that's one I tested prior, but got, it's always on. The one below it is 21 and 22, so circuit 21 and 22. It's a 5 amp, and that one is NA, which was not in use, which, as we just saw, was not true, because when we did our voltmeter, we found that this one actually has 12 volts when the engine is turned on. So this very bottom one that says not NA, which I was just going to ignore, actually, because I tested it, became the one we used. The one that I thought I was going to use actually was always on, and now that is the positive. Now, as you can see, this is as long as the cable goes. So and without splicing this and trying to go to a battery with a fuse, or go into here, which is another adapter you have to buy from Ford and then splice into the wire for the accessory. That's usually where I get the accessory from for my DC to DC chargers, but I wasn't going to use it for the Ecoflow. But as you see, depending on what options you want to put in the van, that's what makes it that's what makes it either easier or harder. So, yeah, that's where we wanted to get to. I can't go any further because I need to purchase a special fuse. So the fuse tap that I was showing you guys, I got to buy one that has 3 prongs on it. I actually don't even know if it exists, but I need to buy that for this application, and then we can put all this back together. We'll have the Dynavin is already fully installed, integrated with the rear view camera. We've got our secondary license plate recording camera for the Wolfbox Dashcam. So we're going to come up here. Let's go up here and look at this. Here we go. Let's go up here. Then let's move you up. Okay, this camera's going to be smart. So we're going to end with talking about the little Wolfbox connection at the top, and then see if you guys have any questions. Okay, so up here, so this is what we were trying to do today. It just took a very long time. Okay, so we had a specialty mirror from Ford that we bought because you have to get a special mirror to mount the Wolfbox onto. It's just a normal mirror, but the Ford mounting is very, very strange. This looks factory because it is mounted to that. Now over here, we've got our input. This is our camera input from the rear view camera. What we're doing now is we just took this, and this is going to be our power in, so the type C. I don't have a constant 12 volt to that, so I'll show you that later, but this will plug into here, and then this, what I'm doing is I'm routing it up through this part of the van. There's this channel up here. You just get a little install tool. You're able to move it just like that. And then that is going to allow us to come down here and then come out. And I actually didn't think I need a little bit more slack. I don't have hardly any slack left. There's a box over here that is just barely fitting in the van. It is the control box for the Wolfbox. Wolfbox control box. Okay. Let's see if I can kind of show you this over here. Nah, it's not gonna let me. Okay. Anyway, the Wolfbox control box is at its highest over here. So actually, whatever I pull right now is all I have to work with up here. So I'm assuming it's going to be a good because that's how things work out, right? Okay, so this is all I got. I think that might just be enough. Okay. Anyway, this is not for this video. This is all gotta be carefully put in here. And yeah, I think, man, it's gonna be so tight. Okay. Yep, I think that'll work. I don't want to plug it in yet, but essentially I'm trying to hide that. Anyway, there's a big cover from Ford. This is going to come down through here. That's why this extra little bit matters, so I can plug it in and hide everything and make it look like there's no wires going anywhere. And then this is your dash cam, and it's really cool because it is the front, and then this allows it to record the back. Yeah, it's just really cool. And then our Dynavin is going to be when you put the car in reverse, the Dynavin will turn on. And I'm trying to, there's a signal wire for the reverse light on the Wolfbox, but I'm not sure if that's going to be possible because it's extremely, there's some things we need to move on to in the van, and that cable to go through and find out the reverse light cable. We already have the Dynavin, so we're going to use the Dynavin for the reverse camera. This one will still work. What you do is that camera will, if you don't have a reverse screen like this, you can't see that, guys. Let me back up. Give me 1 second. There we go. So if you did not have the Dynavin, which we're using for our dash, I actually have a video on this that I haven't finished yet, but this is a touchscreen. It's got navigation. It's got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. This thing is awesome. It's very, very nice. I'm just going to turn it on really quick. You just saw how fast it starts up. So the first time you connect a battery is going to be a long startup to initialize. But after that, it's instant startup. You got all your menus here. And look, this bezel, by the way, comes with Dynavin. It replaces all of this. So you have to redo the vents and everything. It's it's a challenging install. But this unit is super, super cool. Let's see let's see if we can do the reverse camera here. So we're just gonna put it in reverse for a second. And then see the reverse camera comes on, but we've got a bunch of stuff in the way back there, so it's not gonna show up. So let's see what's back there. Oh yeah, it's a piece of tape. So that's our piece of tape from are, that's what that is. That's our piece of tape from our rear columns that we did not actually do yet because we are still working on this electrical. All right, so now let me hit the brake. So you were looking through masking tape, now you're gonna look through the camera. So see, we got the whole back of the shop, the big shop light, and we even got the grids. Now the grids are not gonna follow the steering wheel, they're just kind of there as a placeholder. But that's gonna give you your normal factory feel if you have a rear view camera. So everything was connected so that this works in this way. Yeah, the video is very long. It's a very complex install. So unless you've already installed stereo systems before, I would not, hopefully my video will be out before you do a DIY install because it's pretty challenging, especially trying to sync the camera with the Sync 3 system. There's a completely separate module to make that work. Yeah, it's pretty challenging. But this is what we're going to use for our review, our backup. So that's going to be that. This one will be recording the rear and the front at the same time, but it'll be on a smaller screen. So you would obviously want the bigger screen for backing up your van. But this is cool. This van has now 2 reverse cameras, Dashcam. So pretty fancy. And it just had the standard, very standard basic radio. I mean, not even any type of infotainment whatsoever. So you are able to upgrade that. And this is a really nice product. Yeah, so I'm going to clean all this up. The next live stream, what we'll do is we'll get on and we'll do the swivel suite. Gosh, it's late. The swivel seat, we'll do the swivel seat base because we'll have this nailed down. So basically what's gonna happen, we'll get this wire knocked out tomorrow. I'll order that part. We'll get all these wires cleaned up here. We'll get our swivel seat base on, the seat on, clean up the the gasoline heater, so we don't need to access it anymore. Get the seat on, get this floor in, get the insulation on, the wall panels upholstered, and we'll keep on trucking. The roof's pretty much done, other than bolting in the max fan and sitting the AC on top. We do need to run those 2 ports in the back for the connection. So we're going to be doing that this week. So we got a lot of work this week. If you guys are not currently subscribed to the channel, get subscribed, hit that notification bell because I don't want you guys to miss out on this the van build journey. I go live, as you guys know, at random times if you've been watching. Extremely long format because we're just pretty much doing everything in real time. But if you guys have any questions, definitely put those ask them during the chat. I'd love to stop and answer them, as well as in the comment section when this video is over. But also don't forget to check out vanbuilderhq.com. That is our website. It's got a ton of blog posts, a lot of great articles with all kinds of awesome information on, real detailed, going through, van kitchen galleys, van solar panels, stuff that I suggest, the best of products for camper van conversions. It's all on that website. It's really nice to use. It's got great pictures from all the events that we go to. So those are our pictures that we take when we go to these events, and it just makes that much better. But yeah, check out vanbuilderhq.com and also pick up the DIY van build cheat sheet. That's the cheat sheet that's got all of my products that I purchased from Amazon over the last 3 years. It's completely free to download. It's there to help you out. So go to vanbuilderhq.com or the link in the description below to download that. Guys, hope you guys like this video. Give us a thumbs up. Share this to anybody that's working on their van electrical. We have more electrical coming in the future. Don't worry, we're going to be covering the Ecoflow as soon as we get it hooked up in the back. We've got a majority of all the cables connected. So we've got the DC to DC charging cables. We've got our AC. Thursday, which is actually tomorrow, that's when our shore power plug's going to come in, and we're going to make sure that we get that connected, and pretty much all the cables will be done. It's really just going to be fabricating all the wood components to actually house everything. That'll be the next big step for this build. But until the next live stream, we'll see you guys then, and we're going to call it a night.